So if you look at in the side-by-side version, look at page 136. That's the original text. That's what you're about to hear on the recording. And it's like actors reading it professionally. So you'll hear that. I want you to follow along as best you can on page 36. And then remember, you skip the next page and go on to the next original text page, which would be 138. So we're skipping every other page because we're listening to the original text right now. And then when it's over, I'll give you time to go ahead and read the modern day text yourself. Then what will happen is we'll watch that scene in the film, and you'll be watching, or after you watch that, you'll be writing a newspaper article to like sort of report on the death of Tybalt and Mercutio, to show your understanding of what's going on in that scene. So rather than you taking like a multiple choice quiz, you're going to do some writing in response to it. And I think 4.
So smile.
Okay, I know that's loud. Can somebody over there close the door and leave the lights on?
Reason, but because thou hast hazel eyes, what eye but such an eye would spy out such a quarrel? Thy head is as full of quarrels as an egg is full of meat, and yet thy head hath been beaten as addle as an egg for quarrelling. Thou hast quarrelled with a man for coughing in the street because he hath wakened thy dog that hath lain asleep in the sun. Didst thou not fall out with a tailor for wearing his new doublet before Easter? With another for tying his new shoes with old ribbon, and yet thou wilt tutor me from quarrelling.
And I was so apt to quarrel as thou art.
Benvolio's telling Mercutio we should go home because it's hot and people act, crazy and cranky when it's hot, and I don't want to get in a fight with the Capulets. And then Mercutio's like, since when? Because you fight all the time. You fight if you don't like the way somebody looks at you. You fight for all of these silly reasons. You fight so often that it's like you got scrambled eggs for brains. Okay? And he is, kind of giving him crap, and they're back and forth. But Benvolio in the film is really portrayed as kind of a peacemaker, right? And you see that played up a little bit more in the movie.
What? Any man should buy the fee simple of my life for an hour and a quarter.
The fee simple, simple. By my head, here come the Capulets. By my heel, I care not.
Follow me close, for I will speak to them. Gentlemen, good day. A word with one of you.
But one word with one of us? Couple it with something. Make it a word and a blow.
You shall find me apt enough to that, sir, and you will give me occasion.
Could you not take some occasion without giving?
Where are the vile beginners of this fray?
Noble Prince, I can discover all the unlucky manage of this fatal brawl. There lies the man slain by young Romeo that slew thy kinsman, brave Mercutio.
Tybalt, my cousin. Oh, my brother's child. Oh, prince. Oh, husband. Oh, the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman. Prince, as thou art true, for blood of ours, shed blood of Montague. Oh, cousin.
Benvolio, who began this bloody fray?
Or Tybalt, I want you to highlight it because I'm going to ask you to write about this as if it's like a crime scene. Okay, as if this is something violent that's happened in your town and you're going to describe it for your readers. So you probably won't have much highlighting on the first couple of pages, but then when you get to like page 143 and 145, you'll probably have some highlighting. You highlight where it's describing Mercutio's death or Tybalt's death, which happens pretty soon after Mercutio's. So 2 people are killed in this scene. Highlight the parts that are describing how they died. In the modern...
Mercutio's soul is but a little way from our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Now wretched boy shall with him hence. Either thou or I, or both must go with him. Either thou or I, or both must go with him. Either thou or I, or both must go with him.
Okay, so think about how you would describe that if you were describing it like
So
in
your
the
assignment
quotas.
with Act 3
Like in the newspaper.
is to write a newspaper article.
And there's
to
directions on
describe
canvas. We'll talk
all
about
of
those
that intensity.
later, though. I need you to
go ahead
from
and take
the
Act
scene
5
in which
with you.
Mercutio and Sybil
You can
both
leave
die.
Act 3 there. You don't really need
It's
to
an
take that.
incredibly bloody, violent, crazy scene. It's full of hate. It's full of friendship. It's full of intense emotions, and it's full of really great one-liners in the play. But you are going to use your own powers as a writer to describe what has happened in scene 1 of Act 3. Not the whole play. You're just going to zoom in on scene 1 of Act 3 and give me the most essential moments, essential things that happened in that scene. So, these are the requirements up on the screen, and this is also, guys, on Canvas for you. But you're going to use a creative title, and because you're writing this as a newspaper article, you're going to put that title as a headline at the top of your article. You're going to use descriptive language. You're really going to get in there and use some sensory detail and some intense word choice to make me feel like I'm right there with the characters. And there's some really good images from the film that you could put into your description, like with the blood on the white shirts and spilling into the sand. Okay, so, and it might be a little bit grisly, but that's okay. You are also going to use one quote from the play. And I want you to use a short quote because I want most of this to be in your voice. But I do want you to get one of those great lines in there. So you might quote a character, you might quote Mercutio saying, "A plague on both your houses," or "They have made worms meat of me." You might quote Romeo when he says, "Mercutio's soul is but a little ways above our head, waiting for thine to keep his company. Either thou or I or both must go with him." You might try something like that, but it's that way. If the quote is short, you're still getting some of that great Shakespearean language in there, but the most of this piece is in your own voice and is in normal sentences. Normal, but very descriptive. And then you're going to use a simile at some point in your description of the scene. And we really, I think, have had a lot of practice with simile. So it's the like or as comparison. And I look forward to seeing how you're going to do that to describe the death of Mercutio, or the fight, the duel that happens afterwards. You're also going to use one example of personification. So you're going to give a non-human thing human-like qualities. So you might talk about the clouds becoming angry and shouting down. You might talk about the ocean becoming enraged. You might talk about the sky is crying. So you're going to take an object, give it human-like qualities. The sword comes to life. It challenges somebody, stabs somebody, cuts somebody on its own accord. The sword is a murderer. Okay, so that would be an example of giving something human-like qualities. You're going to, I want you to play with the simile and the personification, because that is a tool that Shakespeare has used pretty constantly throughout the play. And I want you, when you read the work of these great authors, to think about what they do, what tricks they play with language, and then to try to play some of the same tricks with language when you write. So to not only identify when Shakespeare uses a simile, but to be able to use one yourself. And that is really the point of learning about language like that, is so that you can ultimately use it in your own writing. There's an example of a newspaper article about Act 3, Scene 1, and this is a pretty good one. So you can read this. I want you to read this before you write your own. But also, guys, do not be overly influenced by it. So you are still writing in your own words. And then here is where you are going to create your own newspaper article. So it is 10 sentences, the strongest, most concentrated, most intense 10 sentences that you can think of to describe all of this craziness from Act 3, Scene 1. And then you've got your headline, you've got a picture, and you've got your 10 sentences of text there. So it'd be like, just like if you picked up a newspaper and this was on the front page. And then when we're done, you're going to be reading some of your classmates' newspapers and deciding sort of which journalist did the best of capturing all of that emotion into those tightly packed sentences. And I look forward to reading them. All right, you guys can have the rest of the time today to work on this. So pull in things that you highlighted from the modern text, pull in some of the things that you saw today in the film, but make sure you're getting the essential facts of the scene correct. So you need to know who killed who and why, but you also, I want you to be reacting to the scene's intensity and emotion, and putting some of that into the into your article so that your readers can sort of experience it with you. And you're not passing judgment necessarily on a character, but you're showing what happened in great detail so that when I read it, I'm going to feel like I'm there.